All right, let me explain what happened. I recorded 3 videos for this week, and then I had I guess, lapse of judgment where I didn't record one for today because this usual schedule I have is to do 4 recorded videos and then 1 edited video that I write the script for during the week, which was supposed to be the top 10 Krillin fights video. But due to writer's block and the fact that the last top 10 fights video I didn't even get 80 views, I'm not sweating it. Like, it'll still be made. It's not something I'm gonna try to rush out or, stress out by writing the whole thing of tonight and then trying to edit it all, today. I mean, tomorrow rather. So instead, I thought I'd go to one of the characters I missed when I was doing my series of streams on various Dragon Ball characters and talk about his role in the story, ways in which they screwed up, and what could be done or could have been done to rectify this. So I've often said the Buu saga is, as a whole, the one part of the original series. Everything between uh, the original hunt for the Dragon Balls and then the end of Z. It's the only part that I have a problem with, that I actively just take issue with because of certain story choices that were made. And a big part of that has to do with Dabura. So he's introduced as the lackey slash henchman for Babidi, who is at the time supposed to be the main villain. We first see him when Supreme Kai and Kibito take Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, Krillin, and Piccolo to Babidi's lair, or his, where his ship is. Dabura comes out. He uses his spit power, and it turns Krillin and Piccolo into stone. And then he goes back into the ship, and then he's spectating on the different, fights that Goku and Vegeta have at that time. So, Vegeta versus Pui Pui, Goku versus Yak, and he's surprised by the level of power that they have. He gets matched against Gohan. They fight, but it's very clear that Dabura is just toying with him, and this annoys Vegeta, and he starts raging out about it while the fight is going on. Dabura notices this and reports it back to Babidi. And then after Vegeta becomes Majin Vegeta, the whole ship gets teleported, or rather the group of Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, and Supreme Kai are teleported back to the stadium for the 23rd World's Martial Arts Tournament. I forget its name, and now my connection is acting up. That's the wonders of doing a stream. Every time you try to do one, you get a little sidestep. Let me know if you can hear me, Dio. Also, I have to restart this. I always try to give that plot synopsis for the one person who might not, I guess, recall. Okay, good. Yeah, I don't know what that is. It just announces, "Hey, your stream is not working," and then the person who's there says, what is it talking about? I can hear you." But yeah, he's with Babidi, and then Gohan and Supreme Kai manage to get back over to where they are. And after Buu is hatched, Dabura fights Buu and wants to kill him, and until Buu is easily able to repel all of his attacks, which ends with him getting turned into a cookie. YouTube had a big crash yesterday. I remember I was trying to watch. There was a rapper that was killed yesterday. I'm forgetting his name because I'd never heard of him before. But somebody I watched was doing a stream on it. And I kept thinking there was something wrong with my computer and just reloading the page and it wouldn't work. And it got so irritating that the person actually just stopped. They gave up on trying to make it. But let's talk about the story. So after Dabura dies, Krillin and Piccolo are freed from their entrapment, or their, being turned to stone. And then in the show, we see Dabura again in heaven, because apparently sending him to hell would have been too pleasant for him because he's the demon realm's leader. That's a good way of starting this off. So what I like about Dabura is that he has interesting powers. mainly the spit attack because it's a lot of people say that Boo has broken powers with the chocolate beam, but Dabura kind of, came first in using a technique that if it hits you one time, you're screwed. Uh, he's got a nice design, the baggy pants, beard thing. 'Cause we really, out of the major villains in Z, we really don't see one, or not even major villains in Z, but just out of all of the villains in Z that the heroes fight, we never really see one with facial hair. In fact, I think the last villain before Dabura that had a goatee was General Tao. So there was just this big gap between the two bearded foes and all these clean shaven antagonists. Yeah, YouTube's crash is apparently the legacy of it is it's gonna screw up my stream today. Um, yeah, the worst part of him as a character is that he no beard, Nappa. Oh, okay, well, I'm sorry. He didn't immediately cross my mind. And considering that he debuts in the arc right after General Tao, I'm not too far off. So I was still to an extent accurate. Or at least I was accurate when I said investing powers, a cool design. King Vegeta had goatee. Every time I see that message, I'm thinking that whatever I'm saying isn't being heard. Well, yeah, he had a beard as well, but he wasn't a villain within the story. He was just the character we saw in the flashback in the show. So I don't count him. Yeah, that person cutting the grass outside is really irritating. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, he had a nice design look, just a good what's the way of saying it? Aesthetic. And the problem with him is that his role in the story is literally to be first the minion of Babidi, even though we're told that the war himself is the leader of it, then be used as cannon fodder to make Boo look cooler. He's the way he dies, uh, it's kind of funny because when he turned Piccolo and Krillin into stone, I read on one forum that their role in the arc at that point was just to be cannon fodder to make Dabura look cool, and then Dabura ends up being cannon fodder to make Boo look cool. Like it all goes full circle. It sucks too because after he dies in the manga, you never see or hear about him again, which is the case for most of the non-major villains, the ones that aren't, Frieza or Vegeta or Cell. But it's like this is the person who, if Babidi didn't have backing him when he first came to Earth, probably wouldn't have uh, efficiently helped in the. Basically, it's really strange to me that he doesn't get mentioned because we know that Bibbidi, which was Babidi's father or doppelganger, and Kid Buu had this back and forth that went a long time back, several thousands of years ago. So it's kind of strange that we never even at least find out how long have Dabura and Babidi known each other, or maybe what specific thing did Babidi do to get? Because you would figure that Dabura, as one of the I'd say top 10 most powerful characters in the Buu saga, wouldn't go down very easily. So it just sucks they never tell us how him and Babidi met each other. Just anything. He's literally there to be the big buff minion that gets taken out once another minion for Babidi shows up in the form of Boo. Yeah, they could have had a flashback where, because Babidi had the other guys, Yakun and Pui Pui. Imagine a flashback where it's Dabura basically saying, "No, I'm not going to join you," and to hell with you, just completely dismissing him. And then Babidi has like 10, 20, 30 different people that he's hypnotized, or that are not hypnotized but possessed, that are Majins, and it takes all of them weakening Dabura as a collective to get him to be possessed. Like they're wearing him down physically, so it's easier for Babidi to get to him mentally. Because it would have showed that he didn't go down not only without a fight, but multiple attacks from a whole bunch of people that, as far as we're aware, are just as strong, if not stronger, than the Z fighters at the start of the Buu saga. Um, I don't know about that because with Spopovich, we know that he, got destroyed by Hercule at some point. So it would have been nice to see that in a flashback or maybe an explanation of that. But the problem is, when I say a character is wasted, I'm not just saying that because they have limited screen time, but also because I can think of ways in which they could have done more with the character. I really don't know on its face what more could have been done with Pui or with Spopovich. Like that's why I would make a video called Android 19 was wasted, because I don't know what else they would have done with them or could have done with them. So again, if you know what they could have done, you can say it or write it. But I'm kind of on the fence. I'm really I just know that with Dabura, it was very surprising to me to have a character who was supposedly one of the stronger ones in the series up to that point, supposed to be as strong as Perfect Cell, who got a whole arc to be the main villain. And then Dabura is taken out of the Buu saga, not even, I don't even think 30% into it. Like probably what before, it's like right after we first see, the original Buu. No, it's really crazy. There's actually on one of the Dragon Ball forums, they were talking about how happy they were that this there was a guy who was, because a lot of people say that Raditz was underused or could have been used more, and some clown was like, I really like that that was how he died because it subverted our expectations. We didn't think Goku's brother would be taken out of the story and never referenced it. And I was like, so if surprising somebody automatically makes a story good, would Z have been better if it, instead of it ending with that flash forward that showed us all the characters when they were older, they could have just, I guess, made a better story or ending by having Kid Buu blow up the Earth and everybody be dead except for Goku and Vegeta. That would have made the story better since it would have subverted our expectation. Pui should have been at where Dabura's level was in the show. Vegeta killed him too easy. The Majin human should have been able to easily fight Krillin and Piccolo. Majin power increase is too confusing. Yeah, I don't, that's why I said Dragon Ball. Every time people do little power levels and power scaling, and where they're like calculating how strong somebody is, like it's the writers don't even know how strong somebody is. That's why the Cell Juniors were giving Vegeta and Trunks trouble, but then Yamcha and Tien were able to fight him too. I'm very upset with you, Envoy. You haven't showed up to any of my streams recently, so you're lucky my mods aren't here. They would ban you. I would do it myself, but my Infinity Gauntlet is on the other side of the room, and I don't feel like getting it. But yeah, the Majin power increases are just an exercise in the writer deciding however strong a character needs to be, we'll buff them up. I was going to do a whole video about how Majin Vegeta is literally just almost, it's like the form version of a waste of time, because we find out that it didn't actually make Vegeta be able to fight on par with Goku, because after that we find out about Super Saiyan 3 and Goku having it in his back pocket the whole time. And then when he fights, Fat Buu and blows up, it not only does it not kill Fat Buu, it also doesn't even hurt him. So that form, the only purpose it had was resolving Vegeta's character arc, which would later get regressed in Super anyway. So I said everything from the Boo saga just gets crapped on. Like I want to do a whole video about all the different stuff from the Boo arc that just in hindsight looks even worse. Like in terms of what characters were introduced, they don't do anything with anymore. Like one of the ideas I had, if you wanted to keep the way they handled Dabura during the Boo saga, so not rewrite it, is that in Super they could have had Dabura come back as a person in Universe 7, seeking revenge on Fat Boo, on the one that, because Fat Boo was the one that killed him, and that they could have had an entire arc of him just trying to screw with him, and then the other characters being unaware, or basically just a way of him getting revenge without explicitly killing him, like this little torture that Boo for any extended periods of time, because most of the time he's just sleeping. I'm still upset how they handled Mystic Gohan during the Majin arc and Goten plus Trunks. Yeah, everything in that entire arc is a waste of time except for the stuff with Vegeta and Goku. Every damn part of it, like Goku fighting Babidi was a waste of time. Not Babidi, Fat Boo as a Super Saiyan 3. Just every part of it. I really thought Mr. Gohan was going to get another big moment in defeating a villain during the Boo saga, but that didn't happen. Well, again, that's just the writers being pricks. They wasted your time. They have you get shown this big training sequence just for nothing to materialize from it except for a new form that still can't get the job done. That's why I said they did the same thing in the Moro arc. They had Vegeta train for 9 months and get this new technique, and then he uses on the villain, and the villain gets a new form and beats him up right away. I can't wait to review that trash. It's supposed to be ending this month or next month, so that'll be fun. Get rid of that garbage. Let's have a character train for almost an entire year and to not have the training actually. But yeah, like I was saying, Dabura is one of the few villains that they could actually use again and make it slightly interesting, because if he uses the spit power, obviously you can't reverse it unless you kill him. So that already creates a dilemma where if he does that to somebody that one of the Z fighters cares about, then there's a conflict. He has a motivation to go after Boo because he's really the only villain that Boo killed. So it would be a way of bringing Boo back into the spotlight, which I thought the Moro arc was going to do, because it literally starts off with him getting kidnapped, and except now he's been sleeping for most of it. Well, again, that's why Majin Vegeta is a waste of time, because the whole point of that form was that Vegeta finally catches up to Goku, and then Super Saiyan 3 is in his back pocket while they're fighting. Let's see what else is here. Oh, Dio, I'm gonna ban you because you didn't hit the like button. Let me make sure to pull out my mod powers. I remember this one person, because I did like the idea of Cell coming back. This one person was like, well, who's going to bring him back? Because Frieza's minions brought him back. I'm like, well, they could just make Android 21 canon. And it was funny, too, because I explained that after the, I guess, actual death of Frieza, so when Future Trunks killed him, we had no reason to believe there were any Frieza soldiers left, because they were never mentioned in the story after that. They never appeared after that. It was literally just Toriyama or whoever came up with the idea for Resurrection F saying, hey, let's reveal that these members of his empire were so loyal that they decided to wait year after year to bring him back. I just mentioned that because it's like every time you say you want a villain to return, they task you with trying to come up with how it could happen, and then they act like the writers can't just bring the character back themselves. You know, it's really sad. They should have. Oh, don't start with that, Dio, because I already talked about Majin Piccolo before. How he was gonna fight Gohan and Vegeta was gonna fight Goku. It was gonna be two Majins. Vegeta is also too prideful of a character to rely on other people's power. You know, they said that people like have been floating this theory around about Majin Piccolo being a thing that Toriyama wanted to do, but they never have any proof. It's just like when people say that fan backlash caused Toriyama to bring back Goku after the Cell Saga, but then they have no proof of that either. So there's just a whole bunch of urban legends about what specific things he wanted in the story that didn't end up happening. No, the only reason they had Vegeta get possessed by Babidi was just for a stupid uh, plot contrivance to, you know, add some tension. It's the same reason they had him, you know, let Cell absorb 18. It's just to make the story more dramatic for the other characters. Someone actually where's that thing right here? Yeah, that's the fourth time that thing is said that the connection was unstable. But somebody else brought it up how in the Frieza saga, Vegeta said something to the effect of, "Oh, you know, I can get someone when they're down" or something like that. And we saw when he fought Goku that he still, even after Goku couldn't walk anymore, uh, what was it? Kneed him in the stomach when he was reaching out to Gohan, and how there was a whole thing of his character not caring about whether someone was at full power or not. As long as he thought he could win, he would attack him. So that makes him wanting to see Cell get to his perfect form all the more out of character and weird and a plot contrivance. I like 18 beating up Vegeta. Well, hell, that was my biggest problem with her. That they, you know, she was one of the few characters they could have made much stronger, or at least, you know, on the level where she could fight competently with Boo, and they didn't do anything with her. She just sits at the lookout. Like if you weren't a Saiyan or Piccolo during the Boo saga, you might as well not even have been there because you're literally there just to get killed, except for if you're Hercule. No, she was supposed to be one of the strongest members of the Z Fighters, and all she does throughout that entire arc is participate in the tournament and then sit at the lookout and then die off screen in the manga. In the show, they like the whole scene of her getting turned to chocolate was filler. A lot of people don't know that. They take that as the I guess the trifecta. They're like, oh yeah, she couldn't fight Boo. He turned into chocolate real easy. It's filler. In the manga, we literally have it to where Boo shows up outside, and then Go Tanks and Piccolo come out of the time chamber, and then Boo announces that he ate everybody. We didn't actually see what happened. So yeah, that's my biggest problem with the handling of her character. That she was one of the few characters that could have actually fought him and had a decent showing, and Toriyama just dropped the ball. really disappointing. But that seems to be the label of Dragon Ball after the Cell Saga. Just they all they do is like make interesting characters or premises, and they don't do anything with them. It sucks too because Xenoverse 2 actually tried to reach out and give Dabura, some story where he's the main villain. But even then, it's like the games are always usually better at handling characters than the show itself. You actually have a lot of Dragon Ball fans who will say their favorite character is someone because they played as them a lot in the game. Like I know one content creator who said his favorite characters were Hit and Tapion because he played as them in Budokai Tenkaichi 3, not because they actually did anything in the story. So that's a little nice phenomenon because I really don't see that with other franchises where somebody's your favorite character because you played as them in the game. Which again isn't a bad thing, it's just unique. Yeah, Xenoverse really weirded me out because they introduce Dabura's sister and then they don't have him in the game at all, other than what his clothes in the first one. It's like here's a character who drives the plot, someone that we've already seen before, so it's not like they have to design a new villain. And then they don't have him in the game at all. Yeah, only clothes. I thought that was the weirdest thing ever. Yeah, this guy and his lawnmower have been going for like a whole hour at this point. I apologize. Oh, it's actually not that bad. But yeah, going back to what I was saying, gave him a new sibling who's pretty unique because we don't really have. Yeah, we have scientists, with Bulma anyway. We don't really have an evil scientist that kind of. Because the thing about Jiro is that he still tried to fight. He still tried to make himself the, I guess, person that could theoretically defeat Goku or one of his friends. So he still thought he could modify himself to be stronger than the Z fighters. With Toa, she literally just says, I'm not going to battle. I'm just going to make this robot husband and then he'll destroy you. But it really sucks because the story of the first game could have been her resurrecting her brother and then having him be, the person that I guess does the fighting while she's the brains. But instead they have him out of the story. We don't see him until the second game. And then he only gets to play a big role in the story when they put out the DLC pack. Because, Xenoverse 2, that game is the poster child for living off a DLC. Well, they put in like 30 characters that you have to download. It's on the Dragon Ball wiki how many characters they made for DLC. No, I thought that was the craziest thing ever. We're not gonna make a third game even though it's been 4 years. We're just gonna keep pumping more and more into this game from half a decade ago almost. 12 DLC packs. Yeah, I don't know why they won't bring that game to an end. But anyways, I brought the game up because that's really out of all of the games the one that had the most ambitious, I guess, scope for Dabura. That like used him in some way and also him not being in Fighters is kind of irritating because Fighters has all of the major villains, and I would say he's probably he's not one of the main villains, but he still is one that is memorable and looks unique and could probably fight in a unique way. But that's the same game that doesn't even have Kid Gohan, who was in most of Z. So I'm not too surprised he's not included. It's like they put Janemba in there, who's only in one movie, but then they don't put Dabura in there, who was in multiple episodes. And all right, whatever. Not going to sit here and argue with these people over that damn game anymore. Yeah, you know, Dio, it was like that for the first Six Universe. It was the same thing with Android 16. I thought it was the craziest thing in the world to not have him be in that game. I was like, really? The android that was instrumental in Gohan's Super Saiyan 2 transformation, we're just not going to. And we have the Cell Saga in the game, but we're not going to have one of the major characters from that period. Okay, whatever. That's why I said a lot of these games, and I wasn't one of the people who crapped on X Universe's roster, but I just always thought that was really weird. Like, you don't have to put 19 or 20 in there, but at least give me 16, which they ended up doing in the second one, but, you know, still. What else was I going to say? What would have been really fun, again, if this is going off of the thought of changing the Boo Saga, like altering it, because the idea I had earlier was if you want to add something super, they could have had it be like this. Boo is red herring, so they prop Boo up and make us think he's going to be this big threatening villain, and then they actually have it turn out that he's not a villain when he comes out of the pod and he just wants to eat candy and, you know, do little goofy things. And then Dabura gets pissed off that his time was wasted by Babidi and then either like kills him or tries to get the Dragon Balls for himself. And then we could have had an entire arc of Gohan having to get some like new level of power to not only avenge Krillin and Piccolo, who at this point would still be turned to stone, to prevent Dabura from maybe bringing the demon world to Earth or having them all rain down on all these different across the world. He would have had motivation from like a personal thing that Dabura did to him, and also, you know, could have had the same type of story, except this time it would actually mean something because it wouldn't just be there to waste our time. I know Dio fell asleep. He didn't want to hear that. But you get my point that they really could have done something unique with that character and just the whole premise of him being tied to the demon world. Because, you know, Dragon Ball really, before the Boo Saga, didn't tackle other dimensions and realms. And, you know, we had Afterlife, you know, but even then we didn't see that until Z. And then it was pretty much just a little glimpse of hell and filler. And then, you know, Snake World and King Kai's planet. So we still largely didn't see what any of these other dimensions looked like until the Boo Saga. And when they had the chance to show us the demon realm through Dabura, they just completely dropped the ball. Yes, I agree. I figured you would, but it really sucks because they could have told an interesting story of having Dabura freeze Piccolo and Krillin, and then all these other characters reacting to that, and you know, it actually affecting us as the audience because those are two characters that by that point in the story we had been seeing for years, and thus had a connection as viewers with those characters. So it would have been like when he froze them, it would have also been a shot at us as viewers because of our familiarity with those characters, not just random people introduced at the start of the arc. We've actually known them for a long time. Because I do like the idea of this power. The stone spit is kind of, it's like a softer version of the candy beam where neither one kills you, but there's the potential of being killed while you're in that form. It goes up much higher. So like how Piccolo's statue got pushed over and he only was able to live because he could regenerate. It's the same thing with the candy beam where if someone eats you or steps on you, that's it, but you can actually live as a piece of candy. And it does set up an interesting premise where if, that's a good way of saying it, you can't defend yourself and you have to rely on somebody else. And it would have been nice to see Gohan have the arc of not having trained for 7 years, and then realizing that he needs to be strong or powerful to save those that he cares about, which in this instance would be Piccolo and Krillin, who are two characters that, again, we had seen him interact with before, and we knew that he, cared about in some specific way. But instead, they decided to have Dabura get killed right after Boo shows up to make Boo look cooler. That's like a running theme with the villains of Dragon Ball, where they'll have one villain that kills another villain to look cooler, like with Vegeta killing Nappa, or with 17 killing Jiro. It's like, yeah, you thought this person that was doing stuff earlier was evil. Well, get a load of this person. I was gonna say that the Dragon Ball Super manga gets on my nerves more than the show because it doesn't deviate from Goku and Vegeta as much as the show does. Uh, but I did like that during its version of the Future Trunks arc, we at least got to see Dabura again. Granted, it was an alternate timeline version of him, but it was still nice seeing a character who kind of has been out of the story ever since he died, outside of X Universe. Yeah, whenever Toyotaro draws older characters in his style, like villains that that are dead, I always do like that. Like when he draws Cell, like I get kind of intrigued because that's someone that I, as a person who read the original manga, am not used to seeing drawn in his style. Hell, it's the same thing when he draws anyone that's not Goku or Vegeta because they're not on panel as often, so you don't really get as used to them as you do to those two. Well, that's what I was saying about him using the Dragon Balls to bring them to Earth, and then you could have had one-on-one fights between the fighters and the different members of his army. Because if you really think about it, between uh, Frieza and Babidi, we didn't really have a villain who had minions. Like, yeah, 20 had Android 19, but that was just one android that actually listened to him. The other androids didn't. Cell was out doing his own little independent thing. So it could have been interesting to have Dabura say, hey, Babidi had a bunch of people that were working under him. That sounds like something I would benefit from, and then pull out all these demons from hell and have them come to Earth, wreaking havoc and running amok. It really sucks that all the villains after the original seem to just hate having people that they work with. Like it's Frieza, Babidi, and Moro that, like, after Z comes out, after the Z portion of the manga, have an army or different people that work for them. In the case of the other villains like 19 and 20 or Vegeta and Nappa, it's one person working under the other one, or if it's Goku Black and Zamasu, it's two partners, I guess, working together. Yeah, that demon army idea sounds cool. And again, that's the thing that really sucks because uh, Super could do this right now. They could have him get resurrected by Toa. Make her canon in Super because they already made Broly canon. So why the hell not make Toa canon? But whatever. They could have her resurrect him, and then he could want to get revenge on Boo, and then he could say, "Well, hell, I can't fight all of these people by myself," and then have his army, come to Earth after getting the Dragon Balls. That's another thing that the Dragon Balls got completely like made into not even being a thing the villains cared about after Frieza until Zamasu showed up. I just really like that idea of the villains having wishes that they want granted with them. Like, imagine one of the villains just uses the Dragon Balls and wishes for Goku to die, and then that's like a whole arc. Because I remember when they had the episode of Super where Hit, quote unquote, killed Goku, a lot of people were speculating that was going to be the plot of the arc, that uh, Gohan and Goten were gonna have to deal with the aftermath of their father's death, and then we find out in the next episode that Goku found a way to revive himself, which was the stupidest thing I've ever seen. But whatever. I'm gonna launch this beam up into the sky, and then it's gonna hit my chest or eyes or whatever the hell, and I'll be back and fine and okay. No, that was absolutely insane. Yeah, it's just sad that and I said this before, Dragon Ball has probably the biggest pattern of introducing some characters that are like really cool in concept and then not doing anything with them. There's just a little game they play. It's like, hey, let's make this character who's got cool powers and a nice look, and uh, we'll portray as being intimidating, and then after his boss gets a new minion, we're gonna have him get thrown to the wayside like a piece of trash. That was the most pitiful defeat of an antagonist, I'd say, in the original manga. Because at least Nappa got killed by Vegeta, and that was foreshadowed by the fact that he was scared of Vegeta when they would interact with each other. Um, God, Dabura literally just he gets killed by a new character to make the new character look stronger. Again, that's why I said the Boo Saga really irritates me, because I thought when they chose to have Krillin and Piccolo get frozen, or when they had the two of them turned into stone, I thought in having Gohan fight Dabura, they were trying to have him avenge the two of them or kill Dabura so the two of them would be Fred, and then he has no role to play in that actually happening. It's like, oh, how did we get Fred? Did Gohan defeat the monster? Oh no, it was some pink thing that came out of a ball that did it. That's your savior. No, Dragon Ball can be so irritating. They don't even care. They just introduce all of these setups and then say, "Ah, we got you." Super did the same thing with the fact that they had Supreme Kai and Kibito unfused, and I thought when they did that, they were trying to say, "Hey, the Potara Era fusion is going to be used by Goku and Vegeta, and then they're going to unfuse with the Super Dragon Balls or with the Dragon Balls." And then they tell us in the future Trunks saga that the Potara earrings are not permanent for anyone that's not a god, meaning that there's no difference between them and the fusion dance one. I always forget the name of the dance, but I'm talking about the other fusion. So I felt stupid for paying attention because I thought they were setting up Vegito to get used again and for there to be a reason as to how they unfuse. And then I was like, oh, well, I guess not. They were just tricking me. They were just trolling me. Hey, that should be the name of a video. The Dragon Ball writers are like the YouTube comment section. Imagine you go and you look at the people writing the episodes and they're all wearing green masks just to signify that they're trolls. It's like, hey, you thought this episode of this show was gonna actually do something interesting or foreshadow some significant event? Just kidding. No, that show gets really aggravating. Yeah, I think I've said everything I need to say. He was an interesting character who has cool powers that they didn't end up really doing anything with. They tried to do some stuff with him in X Universe too, but there's a very large portion of people that watch the show and don't play the games. So if you don't play that game, you still don't get to experience a story where he does more than just be somebody's lackey and get turned into candy. I think they should bring him back in Super, which is supposed to be starting a new arc. What, in January or next month? Hopefully, one that doesn't last 2 years, since we're only getting one chapter a month. I think it'd be really interesting if they had a setup where he gets brought back through some means, whether that's making Toa canon or not. Or hell, they could introduce a new character that's from the demon realm that's on Earth that brings him back. But anyways, he gets brought back. He wants revenge on Boo for killing him. Uh, and then we could have an arc of like a villain protagonist training, and then he could use that stone spit to on Hercule or some other character that Boo cares about, and that could like motivate Boo to try and destroy him again. Dio says for real. It's just like with the last Airbender, where they're like, "What happened to Zuko's mother?" and then they don't actually reveal it until some book that a bunch of people didn't even read. So yeah, the story was nice, but if it's not done in the proper medium, there's going to be a big portion of people who never witness or experience it. Now, Dabura really bringing him back in Super. You could have him interact with Piccolo. You could have him interact with Krillin. You could have them have a whole story of how uh, they've been training and they don't, maybe they're a lot more, what's the way of saying it, cautious of him because of that power that he used on them. And you could have them be kind of contrasting with Goku and Vegeta, who didn't really get to fight like as powers the two of them are. It would be really nice to see Dabura turn like Goku to stone, for example, and then that's what causes the other characters to start freaking out. It's just like with what's his name, Monster Carrot, the guy from the first series that could turn people into carrots if he touched you. Where you have some character who may not be as strong as one of the heroes, but he has some like broken power. And when I say broken, I don't mean you couldn't write around it, because a lot of people take that as code for, we can't use this character anymore because of the powers that they have. But Dabura turning Goku or Vegeta into stone would be really interesting, because it's another way to write them out of the story with it making sense and, promoting tension. Because a lot of times in Super, as long as the two of them are around, especially if Goku's around, nobody really cares. They just kind of sit on their behinds and relax. Like, oh, okay, we're just going to let these two people save the world forever. We're not going to try to catch up or to actually play some role to the story. So I said, imagine if real life was like that, where every time something happens, instead of a different set of people or some large group of people trying to change something, we're just going to rely on the same two guys. We're going to sit on our behinds and wait for the two of them to solve every damn problem. And it's usually one person over and over again, with the other one just, as the understudy. That'd be a good nickname for Vegeta in Super, Goku's understudy. We're going to have you learn all the same transformations and whatnot, and then you're never going to be able to actually save the day. We're always going to make sure you come up short. Yeah, it's sad that this show just. I almost feel like the writers are mandated to not do anything that's actually surprising or entertaining. And I don't even mean surprising in a way of, oh, like the Future Trunks arc ending was surprising, but it wasn't good. It was literally them saying, hey, thanks for watching this arc for what, 3, 4, 5 months. And instead of giving you the ending you should have, which is the heroes defeating the villain, we're going to do this crap ending that undoes all of their progress because it surprises you. But yeah, have a story where Dabura turns either Goku or Vegeta or both of them into stone, and then the rest of the characters freak out and they have to actually be vigilant and train and not rely on the same two people over and over again. I think that would be a really good story because it would tie into all the other arcs. Um, it would make sense for Piccolo to probably be the protagonist in that case because he is one of the few. Him and Tien are the two characters to always train. It would. I just think that would be really interesting to have the rest of the cast have it reflected back on them that you can't depend on the same two people to save the day every time, and even then, it's mostly them still depending on Goku. It was really funny too because when I was on one of the forums, there was a user who said something to the effect of that because of the power gap between Goku and Vegeta and the rest of the characters, we wouldn't be interested in seeing the other characters, or if we were viewing them, we would just be wondering when Goku and Vegeta would get used again. It's like, well, hell, it's not the problem. It's not the fault of the writer that you guys have been so attached to only seeing two characters over and over that when you see somebody else, you don't give a damn. King Carrot, yeah. No, whenever you have a villain that can turn somebody into something, it always can set up a good premise. Like remember Super Boo turned Vegito into a little piece of candy and he was beating them up in that. Like that's something creative. That's something you don't really see throughout really much of the new stuff at all. No, it really sucks that Dabura just doesn't get used as much as he should have been. I mean, it's the same thing about a lot of different villains. And don't even get me started on a tournament of power where they have a whole bunch of characters they made for the tournament that literally are there just to be cannon fodder and make Universe 7 look cooler. All right, Dio, do you have anything else to say, or am I? Because I'm about tapped out of words. So let me know if you have any further comments, statements, remarks, theories, concerns. Otherwise, we can wrap this up. And I did this stream because I just really didn't feel like barrel rolling through that Krillin fights video, knowing that it's not even gonna get 100 views. So that was the aftermath of that. It's like, hello, person that makes videos that they have to write paragraphs for and edit. We're going to make sure that barely anybody watches it. It's like I'm good. I'm I'll still get around to it, but it'll be a little bit slower. Because again, what's the point? So thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Have a good day. And if you so happen to write a story where you have some villain with some really cool powers, a nice look, and other things that are appealing, make sure to use them properly. Don't have them appear intimidating just to get murdered by a new character for the purpose of making a new character look more interesting.